But anyway. All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the rationalinvestor.co. And Sjord, remind me to post the video link in the lounge when we're done here, because sometimes I forget to do that, eh? But I'll post the video. I'll do a blog write-up of it as well when I get finished and done with you guys here today. So welcome back to our daily brief video. Relatively quick videos here. I don't want them to be marathons. Unfortunately, I do love the sound of my own voice, so sometimes they do go a bit long. Not a bad idea if you're watching this video later on and you're like, oh crap, I haven't got 45 minutes. Just put me on like 1.5 speed, and if you happen to see something that interests you, a market that I'm talking about, then you can sort of slow me down. So let's go look at the book, see what we got, get you guys on your way. All right. So broader stock market, and I really like the dashboard just to sort of give us a very sort of brief snapshot of the world that we're in. We're still going through sort of this first 100 days of Donald Trump, but I did notice that there's even more talk today about big tax plans, big capital gains tax revisions being put off now till 2018. So we can feel that Mr. Trump and his administration is already starting to get bogged down. And I wonder if the stock market is kind of losing faith in a lot of the premium that it built into it based on the hope of a big tax reform package coming down the pike here. I find it really interesting that our little breadth indicator, the slow, is finally caught up to the fast. And actually, we have a tight little double top in the fast reading of breadth and a crossover here. So I get kind of the feeling that quite a bit of the inertia that came out of this massive wide double bottom, and also too, if you kind of think of this as a sine wave, you can kind of feel that we're sort of at the end of this sort of apex of this sine wave. And of course, you've been hearing me talking about the silly stock market cycles and how we should make a cycle low into sort of, second, third week of March. So maybe we're starting to see the anecdotal evidence that, hey, the broader market is kind of calming down here a bit. No outright sell signals on the broader stock indexes. We'll come back to this guy in a moment. With regard to things, I like to follow the ES. We actually opened up pretty violently down first thing this morning, and here's our cycle analysis. Last February lows, the Brexit lows, the election lows. I'm looking for some sort of significant pivot low here sometime, like we said. Actually, here this even has sort of mid to the end of March. And we know, of course, all our Bitcoiners, we're all super focused on early March. We'll get to that in a bit. But my hunch is things are going to, I think the inertia is probably heading in this same direction until it does break. And we usually, let's hope it isn't like one of these damn Brexit breaks where it's just all in one big orgy of insanity. I personally I like it when markets top out and break down in a very orderly fashion. It makes trading a lot easier. When it's this kind of shit and it's all over the place, it drives you crazy. Any way you shake it, just right at present, I don't have any sort of outright sell setups or sell signals to work off of yet. We kind of mused yesterday that maybe yesterday was a doji. And at very best, and here we are again on Friday. Do I really want to put on a new trade heading on into the weekend? I don't think that's a good idea. So, as I almost always do, it seems of late, let's see how Monday opens. Let's see if we can get a nice little kill zone set up into like a Tuesday, Wednesday London kill zone. And we'll just sort of hunt tops in here. If we have to take another little shot against highs and take a little punch in the nose, I don't mind. That's a trader's life. When this friggin' thing breaks, holy crap, there's going to be a lot of money to be made here. And it might just be one of these insanely quick events too. So, be light on your toes. Do I have any outright sell signals working here? No. But I am encouraged to see, on the flip side of the equation, we've been relatively bullish of bonds lately, just on the thesis that at some point, in the not too distant future, we're going to rally up and fill in these gaps. And I was actually very pleased to see the price action on things like the TLT. You can see we gap violently higher here today. I was watching the bonds overnight. This is the actual T-bond futures contract. And actually, one of our sort of alumni, who's actually a great contributor to the community, I asked him to post that altcoin fundamental screening model the other day, Da Vinci. He actually did a lot of work with these momentum indicators, and he found that if you ever find a W in the price momentum indicator that we use, Willie, which is a Williams percentage R, and it's purely a price momentum indicator, and a W in the OBV, or on balance volume indicator, which is a volume momentum indicator, it's actually usually a pretty powerful sign. So I thought it was really interesting to see these W's coming in on these momentum indicators, and a nice little, just, it's still a trading range, so I can't jump up and down and scream and yell just yet, but I am encouraged by what I'm seeing here. And of course, we bought our summer call. We're not really in any hurry to do anything here, but I think Sjord was reporting that the position's looking a little better today, which is encouraging. And then I suppose the flip side of that, our sort of stock market short proxy, I had suggested that one of these big U.S. bank stocks recently had validated the rational investor's secret options formula for going and buying. And really what we're looking for here is a move basically down to POC, down to fill in this gap right here. And if you just draw really simple 50% levels, really just all we're looking for is a move back into not even, I really don't expect, the stock market to collapse. All I'm really asking for is just a very natural, healthy 50% correction. And it's fascinating how recently, right, the TRISOF wants to buy 6 months at a time. You just buy it, you work your orders at double your purchase price, blah, 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 blah. I find it fascinating how the option went zooming up in price, then came zooming back down. And we had sort of mused, well, if we were going to see a counter trend rally, where would we most likely see it, and why, and reload zones and gaps and wicks and tails. And, really, even yesterday we were sitting here going, I don't know, man, this thing fucking looks strong. And all of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere, the damn thing gaps lower. So, I'll be highly encouraged, and frankly, I'd like to see this just close below this level here to let me know that, yep, okay, looks like we got a pretty solid top working here. For the time being, I think we're still sort of, playing around with this POC here. Look at the big gap. We could very easily come in early next week, fill in the gap. But anyway, you slice it, these bank stocks went all zooming higher here on the anticipation that Dodd-Frank was going to be destroyed, that Trump was going to reduce the capital gains taxes on U.S. corporations, which is going to, inject a massive flood of capital back into the states. And as I had said earlier, hold on a second. As I had said yesterday, in the Fed minutes, they believe that the odds of Mr. Trump getting all this stuff done were lessening. And now I was reading today that indeed the Trump camp themselves have said that they're going to have to push tax reform legislation even into 2018 now. So I think maybe sort of a little bit of the enthusiasm, euphoria, markets are ebb and flow. That's their job, right? So they obviously reacted way too far on the upside, and maybe now we have to go through 6-8 months of cleaning all this up. Tough to say. I think I'll declare defeat on this short idea if we go and break these highs. If you did buy the option, just go and get whatever salvage value for the option is left. But I'm feeling pretty good about this. So just let it work for the time being. And same thing with the bonds. Nothing really changes there. All right, so that's the stock market. Quick boo at the gold and silver. Gold and silver gold should be acting the same way as their bond chart. So if we look at the gold, we should see similar activity. Doesn't look like the bonds have performed as well as the gold. We had actually a new member on in the lounge last night, and we were chatting a little bit about bullish setups here on the gold. I was worried when we made this high that this potential divergence was forming here. Great analogy where, in essence, the potential divergence never turned into a confirmed divergence, so that's encouraging. And it was interesting when I actually drew the levels. I think I did it off of the spot market. Yeah. We potentially could have had a bought long setup here, but I only had one single low against this 33% pullback, and then it went straight up. So nothing really set up off of that for me. And then we had this littler one where market rallied up into here and then came back and consolidated against this 25 level. And I found it really interesting when I was doing the charts. Both of these setups have this 1277, 1278, 1279, 1280, somewhere in that area, that target. And then we also see, like I said, on the futures markets, there's a big old hole in the charts right there. Hello, Gappy Gap. And this was the election night itself, the reversal there. That was the Druckenmiller short. And of course, you can see this big old notch, and that's what these little heart icons I use are supposed to denote. In essence, there's a bunch of unfinished business that needs to be done up here. So I think that's kind of what's going on in the gold market, and that should help my bonds. So I'm feeling better about that. I suppose, you know, and I also was reading analysts this morning that were talking about silver. They're all getting excited about silver again. Of course, we've had this head and shoulders working for a while now. And we can see all these wicks up here against all these lows, that key low. There's a nice little wick up in there. I think, that's the election reversal there. So I think a stab up into this area really isn't out of the question. A little bit of a notch there. But on balance, I think, you know, the wind is at the metal's back. Came really close to breaking down here on momentum, though, which was interesting. So that brings us to the good old oil. And theoretically, if the metals are feeling happier, this oil should be topping out. We have a really, really tight little potential double top working here. And actually, this is a fairly simple trade, guys, if you are interested in shorting crude. Basically, we've got a fairly steep little uptrend line here. Yeah, look at that, eh? So you can see that that little uptrend line is defining support. If we lose that uptrend line, see you later. Probably if we lose that, we're going to have to come down into here. So there could very easily be, you know, that's 54. This support line's 52.5. So there's like a good buck and a half to be clipped there. And then if we really do start breaking down here in earnest, really, I think we got to come back down to levels like down into here. See, there's the POC right there. You know, and if we lose this level, then good old Hoag's 80% play. And look at that cute little notch that's sitting right there, eh? So, you know, and if we zoom out, we go, holy shit, man. I mean, this thing, if it does break, man, it has a long, long way to go. I don't have any signs of breakage just yet, so we can't, you know, declare this thing has broken. If we come in Monday morning and we find out that I don't know, there's a big old war going on in the Middle East, and you see prices up through these highs, then all that short talk is over. But damn, we're really close to breaking here. So for all of you that are active traders that really want to focus in on a market that might just pay off big time, keep your eyes peeled on the oil market right here. And let's go take a look at our big boy and see how he's feeling these days. You know, theoretically the biggest oil stock in the world, one of the biggest companies in the world, and it's just on its knees right now. Look at this big old fucking M in here. I mean, that's about as well-defined an M as you're going to see. You know, this probably shows up on like the monthly price charts. That's huge. So I guess I could see a counter trend rally. This, you know, this sell-off has been pretty dramatic, but man, I don't think this is a good idea to step in front of this train. You know, you might get a nice little pump up back into the POC and then kaboom, back down we go. And of course, you know, sell in May and walk away. The oil stocks usually top out in earnest in it through that May period. So maybe there's going to be some sort of counter trend rally here, but I don't see anything to get bullish about here. It's nasty. So it was also interesting too, before we leave this space, somebody was talking about professor of economics. We should keep an eye on how copper is acting here. We've been waiting for this market to pull back for a while now, right? You can see key supports down in this area here. I am a copper bull and I would like to be long copper, but I think that these prices are just too high. And you notice momentum is really, really looking heavy here. And we notice that OBV, we're not seeing a lot of new money flowing into here. In fact, that's a divergence. That is not a good sign. So I don't know whether you guys can see this, but we made higher highs here in price, but the OBV indicator is not. You know, I often tell students that you know, divergences are one thing in price momentum oscillators, but when you get divergences in volume momentum oscillators, holy crap, there's something wrong here. So be careful. I got a funny feeling copper could really surprise people here. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, honestly, we could easily see copper lose, you know, a good 50 cents a pound, no problem. So, you know, it's interesting in the level one, I do have a few students that actually play the metal stocks, some of the junior stocks in Canada. And we've been talking, of course, recently about how dangerous they look. So I guess that kind of makes sense. Okay, and then lastly, as always, might as well touch base on my little dogs. CLWT off a dime here, threatening to break out through $4, but until that happens, nothing to do. We're long from 2.5, so big hurry up and do nothing. CPST, Sjord's dying 1,000 deaths. Poor Sjord. Is he still here? Oh, no. He wasn't able to get half off on a double, but I was, so I'm just sitting on free stock, and I'm just twiddling my thumbs. And IPCI, we're up about, I don't know, about 60, 70 cents, I think, from where we bought it. Having a nice up day. It did get kind of bitch slapped recently, but this is a pharmaceutical stock. Usually when the broader stock market's happy, pharma stocks get whacked, and he did. Like if you look at the chart, he came off a good chunk here. Look at this big rally day here, total dead cat bounce. But if the stock market's not feeling very happy, then we'll probably see that that actually start to outperform a little bit. So anyway, so not much going on there in the little junior stocks. Okay, on to Bitcoin. Bitcoin tastes great. Bitcoin, can't wait. All right, it was interesting. Couple tweets I put out. There was a really big tweet that I put out to the effect of, well, guys, it's finally happened. So I get the kind of feeling that Bitcoin now, and you know, the interesting thing, guys, is that, you know, if you watch these weekly videos and you're on the site, we've been talking about this for a while now. On a clothesline basis, Bitcoin broke out a couple weeks ago. And it's interesting, on a clothesline basis, we're now coming up into things like 127s, 1229. Keep an eye on that number. I think that's pretty important. So, you know, I think on balance, the message in the for site and the community is the bull has been validated. And, you know, I gotta tell you, like, we started the site and the school through here, and this was a pretty tough slog. I don't really want to go through any more Bitcoin bear markets over the short term. Thank you very much. So the simple fact that we have broken to new highs is, you know, regardless of what happens here in the short term, I could easily see lots of fuck yous back and forth here just to piss the retail public off. But what I think is really important here is just for us to listen to the market's message. And of course, you guys are all crypto enthusiasts. So this is just simply a massive validation of your, you know, all of you, including myself. We all took a big risk getting involved in this space. And if anything, we should all pat ourselves on the back and go, fuck, okay, at least we're participating in a bull story. And we're into the end game period. You guys have seen my crazy Bitstamp charts. that have like $4,000 or $5,000 ultimate objectives. We're now into that window where all of that kind of crazy conversation is on the table. So yay, big hurrah for Bitcoin, it's a bull. I think for all of you guys, we're going to live through bull markets, bear markets through your life. I mean, you guys are all really young, which is really, I'm very envious of you guys. Well, most of you are young. If you're in your 20s, even your late 20s, God, guys, you're going to live a long time, 20, 30, 40 years of market participation. You're going to see so many stories come and go. So, enjoy this Bitcoin story, enjoy this environment. Let's all get rich off of this. But I think also, too, as students of the market, there's a lot that we can learn from this. And you will see this again in the future. It may be a growth stock. It may be a commodity. It might be a bond. It might be a currency. It really doesn't matter. Ironically enough, assets just move the way that human psychology moves them. So, with all that said, this is an incredibly powerful image. And you just don't see it every day. In fact, we could even zoom out on a weekly chart to really enforce this. This is what's called a cup and handle formation. And in essence, the move through this level, and it's interesting how even overnight, we can look at the lower time frames, you can really see that the market is just simply oscillating off of this massive breakout level. But what's really cool about this image is, in essence, this is a projection tool, and think parking garage, Brian and his crazy levels. In essence, the market took a year or two to establish a trading range, and it is basically telling us I'm ready to leave that trading range. Very, very significant event right here. Well, we'll probably find, and actually it was really cool. I did this, I was having a conversation with a guy on Twitter last night, where he said, well, wouldn't it be really interesting if we find out that these old levels are actually the reload zones of this coming rally? And I said, dude, now you're fucking thinking, right? I mean, really what I want people to do now, and it's a learning process and it takes a lot of time. But what I really want you guys getting to the point is being able to use fib tools to actually try and tell you what the future is actually going to look like, and give you sort of windows of potential action. So, if we take our reload zone tool and we postulate that the next correction buying window, kind of like what happened here, is going to be nothing more than just a tag of these old levels, well, where does that start actually suggesting that price could reach to? And so it's really interesting, as you can see how the reload zone doesn't really change a heck of a lot. And we're starting to project some pretty big numbers up here, right? Can everybody see that? That's 3,400 right there. And watch what's really interesting, right? I'll tack on, say, another, I don't know, $500. All right, there's 4,000. Notice that the reload zone didn't really move a hell of a lot, did it? Can anybody hear me? Are you guys still here? Anybody out there, right? So, I think this is a pretty significant event, and ironically enough, what's probably going to happen, just like this, is once this blow-off move is done, we're probably going to actually revisit this in the next sort of 10, 15 years kind of idea, and this actually becomes long-term support. So, like I said, this is incredibly, you guys are really fortunate, especially people new to Bitcoin. We just went through a year and a half or actually 3 years of shit. Or is this thing actually trending, or is it going to range, and is it, hacks, talk galore, blah, 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 blah. I think probably what's going to happen here is over the short term, some of these fib levels are going to act as resistance. Keep in mind, this is like really big picture, right? And through sort of short-term fundamental events, use these levels as guides, right? Where to look for, say, an ETF blow off top, right? This And actually, it's interesting. Like I was looking at, let's see, I hope I can load this without blowing this up. But there was another guy I was talking to on Twitter this morning, and we were talking about the GBTC. And I think that the market is actually telegraphing exactly where it wants to go. Does everybody see this gap right up here at 140 bucks? Can you see the gap? Can you see the gap? And maybe you guys even saw these tweets that I was putting out, right? And somebody was commenting that, hey, they've taken all of the premium out of this GBTC. And I said, yeah, because now that coin ETF, these guys can't get away with murder anymore because they're going to be the only, they won't be the only show in town. And this is so typical of these exchange traded funds. If they're trading on OTC and stuff, is they'll put in just ridiculous premiums into these products. But anyway, the point that I would just make is that there is some unfinished business up here at this $140. And this thing is now trading with the spot market. So we could easily see the market work up to that 1400, fill in the gap, validate the chart, clean it all up, and then roll over. And then if we go back to our bigger time frame, we see, all right, well, there's a 127.2 at 1433. Coincidence? I think not. So use these as sort of like reference points as to where to look for exhaustion. Now, if we do accept above the lip of the cup and handle, it basically implies that our target here should be about 2166. It is interesting that James, he followed the square. And where was the next big square level? Wasn't it like 1600 or something like that? 1644? So I wouldn't be surprised if, there we see the midpoint of these two fibs is this 1607. I think it was 1644. I think, James, correct me, and I don't know whether you can hear me or not, but correct me. And actually, guys, for regular site members, I went and just duplicated a lot of the school links, ones that I didn't think were relevant to actual specific school. I put them on the tutorials page. So there's a whole bunch more links to play around with. And I have, I think, somewhere in all this. Now I got to find it. Here. There it is. So James, are you here? James, are you here? I don't think he is. He's out trading Kiwi versus the Swiss franc right now. Some crazy exotic. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, his current square pricing on Stamp is running off of this cardinal cross levels. And it's interesting how their next level is 1630 area, and then the next one after that jumps to 218. So there's 16, and 218, notice that 200% is 216. So interesting. All right, so bigger picture. That's sort of bigger picture talk. Now, if we zoom in on sort of lower time frames, Brian, what the hell's going on in the short term? A couple of really interesting things that jumped out at me. I did just for fun, and I thought, what the hell? Let's see what this looks like. I actually took two Gann squares and I laid them back to back. Sometimes doing these charts causes my charts to crash, so I certainly hope this doesn't happen this time. But can you see how I took the two squares and I laid them back to back? And it created this interesting image, and I found it fascinating how Stamp is just absolutely obsessed with this arc. Now, what happens here, because we went through the top, do we actually have to go backward in time? I don't know. But when I laid these arcs side by side, of course, what kind of levels jump out? There's 1397, 1400 bucks. This is an interesting 8-to-1 here. That's 1300. So they're almost moving up in like $100 increments. I don't know, and frankly, I've never done this before, so I have no idea what the relevance of this is. But clearly, we're at the end of this arc. We've got to let go of this arc. But check this out. I found this incredibly fascinating. When I zoomed in this morning, look how Stamp is just literally, it's tagged both sides of this arc here right today alone. Look how it just went up here. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. I'm not quite sure what has to happen here. I've never seen that before. It's just absolutely mind blown. Maybe we have to work a little bit higher here because the top of that arc isn't quite hit, you know? But man, that is absolutely incredible. So I'm going to be watching this like a hawk. I find that fascinating. And I'm not quite sure, you know, I'm not really saying that this is a trading tool. I'm talking more as, you know, a fellow technician, student of the market. That is just freaky ass shit. So I'm going to be watching how this arc resolves here really closely over the next day or two. You know, for the traders, I thought it was interesting that, gee whiz, these silly forward contracts already got up to plus 70 on a premium. And remember, we said these things get up into the plus 100 area and watch out. So I was actually quite shocked to see how quickly this had moved up to plus 70, plus 80 bucks. Man, this is nuts. This is up and down like a fucking horse drawers. We went from like absolute depression to euphoria here in the matter of just a few days. It's shocking. As a student of the market, again, I have to sort of stand back and go, what the hell is going on here? I do believe, though, that, and I was watching news releases and stuff, you know, on Twitter and all that, and I get the impression, and actually a Chinese government official came out on state television and actually publicly said that they didn't want to kill Bitcoin, they just wanted to try and sort of rein it in. I thought that was pretty important. And basically what we've seen out of the Chinese government is exactly that, right? Coming in and cleaning up these exchanges, trying to, you know, get rid of some nefarious activities, shutting down margin trading, trying to stop the sort of flow of Chinese yuan out of the country. And maybe what we're seeing here is this was sort of crisis is OKCoin going out of business. And this is sort of, okay, well, it looks like OKCoin is not going out of business and now back to tomfuckery. So anyway you slice it, though, if we start getting up into like plus $100 premiums at some point, I got to go, you know what? We've gone too far too fast. And of course, let's keep an eye out for any sort of signs of technical failure. As it stands right now, everything seems to be pointing up, so I'm not going to get in the way of this thing. But you know, this picture can change fairly quickly. So just an interesting side on OKCoin. Has OKCoin and the Chinese exchanges survived this? And it was also interesting too, you know, like people a week or two ago were like, oh, you know, look at the Bitcoin versus the Chinese currencies and stuff like that. I don't know whether you guys noticed, but versus like the Chinese currency, Bitcoin's nowhere near its old high. So we can even see that this is purely a US dollar related breakout. And that's what I think is dominating right now. I think also too, though, like I pointed out, and I think this is really important too, another last sort of message about Bitcoin before we get down to the lower time frames. I believe, for whatever it's worth, and I've been basically analyzing Bitcoin now in earnest for 3 years, I believe that a big market participant, Japan, was not participating in the Bitcoin story directly over the past few years, but we have clearly seen lots of anecdotal evidence about Japanese coming back online. And I get the funny feeling that the injection of the Japanese back into the Bitcoin market in earnest, seriously putting money to work. And I don't know whether you guys are aware, but there's supposed to be some Japanese legislation that's supposed to take effect in early April that actually requires the banks to actually start using and being able to use Bitcoin. So I do believe there's a big catalyst in Japan that's driving a lot of this as well. So while we do in the West, we're dealing with things like ETFs and stuff like that. I think there's actually an even bigger driver going on out of Japan right now. So that's just my 2 cents there. Okay, all you short-term traders, let's give you a little bit to chew on here. I heard last night in the lounge, Thomas was saying that he hopped off a whack of his long positions up top. So way to go, Thomas. And we were kind of musing. I had put out a tweet yesterday to the effect of, I'm a little concerned. Something doesn't smell right here. I had put out a tweet in the lounge. We were talking about how, if you were on, where did I do that? I guess I did it over here. If you're on Phoenix and you're trading Phoenix, I thought there was a cute little window of opportunity here, where the old breakout high 1166 was a 161.8. And I noticed that, parking garage, that is basically this range here. So that old high was a 1618. If we did break through that, good old parking garage says that we should probably have to go up and tag this 200. So I was putting out tweets yesterday saying, okay, basically the trade's set up on a silver platter for you. If you're a momentum trader, if you like to trade breakouts, basically just buy the breakout. It looks to me like you could probably clip this thing for $50. I didn't realize how precise that was going to be. That was a little ridiculous. I certainly wasn't expecting that. But in essence, the market literally broke out. It ran up a chunk. Then it consolidated for an hour or an hour or two. And then it just literally went straight up to the 200% and then just crapped out. I mean, it was just absolutely stunning to watch. I found it interesting that it actually crapped out right back to an original bullish objective, bullish harmonic objective right here. And of course, remember, this was the Head and Shoulders bullish objective. So what this sort of tells me is that we now have sort of, these were all the original bullish objectives, but those old highs were just such powerful magnets. Stop loss orders for guys that were shorting, easy retail buy on stop orders, right? There was a lot of liquidity to be had in here. So the market just had too much inertia, too much oomph, and it just simply went after those, right? And then we went after the stops. You've heard me talk about that before. And that's sort of that pent up energy, that sort of final release, that's what this is. So we as sort of technicians, now we got to say, okay, we had a big run up, right? We had our range extensions. The move is done. If anything, now what we need to do is we need to say, okay, let's get some consolidation. Maybe what has to happen now is we consolidate within this range for a bit, which sets up another bullish AB equals CD. Maybe the next bot is going to look something like this, right? Oh, fudge, wrong Coinigy, so I'm going to have to flip all this around. Boom, 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 boom. But that's not what I want. I want this one and this one. Everything else is checked off. All right, so 33%. Uh-oh, that's already happened. So in essence, we can say the bot's alive, right? Oh, actually, that's what this fib is here. I already did that. So what we got to do at this point then is clone that and project that off of that low. If this is the lowest low, ideally what I'd like to see is a nice, sort of double, triple bottom come in here. But we'll set up the bot trade levels, 25, 50, 66. Okay, I think that should work. And is it backwards? Usually it is. What happened here? Yeah, it is. All right. So the next, if this is an AB, CD, the next level. Isn't that interesting? Look how the market is already starting to set that level up. Let's put this as white, and we'll make it nice and, well, yeah, okay, well, that's about what we can do. All right, so there is the next bot level, just eyeballing this. You'd have to obviously zoom in and get it all nice and tickety-boo. There is 50%, and there is our target way up there of the next bot level. So what is that? That is 1,400 bananas, 1395 area. So I can already start to see this, but let's see this calm down and consolidate and put in a nice sort of structural low, and then maybe we can consider the next long setup. So that's sort of what my head's at right at the moment. I hope that helps you guys. Those people that are trading OKCoin and all that kind of fun stuff, same sort of thing. You know, I had actually put out a tweet yesterday when the market had rallied up top here saying, oh, fuck, man, now we actually start having risk coming back into the equation here. So hopefully everybody can see that what we actually had happen here was just basically 78.6. Thomas had a cute little notch. And what was really interesting is on the break, they actually left the notch. So you can see even today they've come and they've filled that notch back in now. But in essence, the tweet that I had put out yesterday was, okay, you know, we have a nice big run up on the cash markets and they all went to new high. Uh-oh. Garrett's like, we're at 45 minutes. So we had a break to new highs in cash, but the forwards did not go to new highs. So a little bit suspicious there. Something just wasn't right. And sure enough, baboosh, right? They needed to whack it here. Again, just like that Phoenix chart, right now what you have to do is there's 38.2, good old Ray Burchett. You can see how that's the top of value. So what we'd really like to see, you know, as a trader, what I'd really like to see is a nice consolidation in here, kind of like how we told you about the crude oil market there about a month or so ago. Remember, JC asked me, Brian, what do you think is going to happen to crude price? And I said, you know what I want to see is just a nice sideways consolidation. Believe it or not, you know, over the next week or two, that's what I'd like to see. I got a funny feeling it's not going to happen, but what I'd like to see is a nice consolidation. But anyway, only time will tell. Okay, so as Garrett has suggested, I think we'll probably leave Bitcoin conversation at that for now. I think in the short term, we've got a trading range. If we do put in some sort of consolidation, we can start thinking about moves higher. Here are some extension levels to keep an eye on. You know, just print this screen out while you're watching the video back. And of course, our parking garage. Oh, actually, no, this is our bot level setup if this thing decides to bot its way higher again. So some levels to keep an eye on there on Phoenix. And actually, it's interesting, right? Because remember we said there was the gap right on that GBTC chart right at 140 bucks. And what's interesting is this bot, if this sets up, its target will be $1,400 or basically that $440. So we can actually already start to see how the market's going to move its way up there. And I better get moving on or Garrett's going to come after me. Okay, just wanted to mention a couple altcoins. Didn't really do any buying today, thank heavens. First day in probably like fucking a month I haven't done any buying. But, you know, some really interesting anecdotal evidence. We were having a fun conversation about Dash in the lounge this morning. And what kind of jumps out at me, and I think this is a really good lesson for you guys, students of the market, really watch how this plays out. This is our parking garage thesis, exact same thing that markets like to move in ranges. So if anything, guys, students of the market, grab a screenshot of this, right, and just put it aside somewhere and just see what happens. I think you will be pleasantly surprised. In essence, this is a very long consolidation in a very tight trading range. You know, in the short term, you look at this and you go, oh, you know, I can't see this as a trading range. But if you just zoom out a bit, you can really see it. And if we accept above this range, kind of like just like Bitcoin, all those charts we did, our next stop has got to be up in this area. And you be shocked. Now, sometimes they just go blasting straight up to Amanda's apartment. Hey, way to go, Kevin. Kevin already got some free coins here. Hats off. What's interesting, guys, is we were buyers down in here. We sold so many doubles that actually I've stopped selling. I've gotten rid of all my sell orders, and I'm just going to ride their position. It's our third largest position in the account, and I just want to see where the hell this damn thing takes us. So, but the point here is that I don't know whether we're going to go up to the fourth floor. Who knows? But it was kind of cute. James was pointing, oh, that's Amanda's apartment up there. So I had to put that on the tweet. But the interesting thing is, even at these prices, we look at, to all us, Joe's six packs is 150 million bucks. Wow, that's a fucking hell of a lot of money, right? But to the corporate world, $150 million is peanuts. It's nothing. It's meaningless. You could easily see this thing 10x, and that would just be $1.5 billion. The scuttlebutt, the talk that I'm hearing is that Bitcoin's the senior, and Litecoin, what the fuck was that? People are losing interest in Litecoin, and I'm hearing on a daily basis that Dash wants to be sort of the junior. And I thought it was interesting. Somebody was tweeting out on CoinMarketCap, this Dash is climbing, right? It's moving up. Right now it's sitting in fourth position. And I mean, I don't care what you say, right? That's a bullish looking chart, higher highs and higher lows, right? Interesting to see Ethereum's actually moving up with Bitcoin here. That's a bit surprising. And where's Litecoin? Litecoin can't even buy a friend these days. So now we're over 205 million. I could easily see this many multiples higher. So it's just really a good sort of side anecdote of what can happen. In this trading range, you can't really see the bigger picture where, if they do decide to revalue this asset, this thing could be worth many multiples. Okay, why don't we finish off the video? Because as Garrett said, we're well over time here. I guess last one I noticed somebody mentioned Factum. We're getting some fills. Okay, I mean, a bad buying against these lows, taking a bit of shot. If she loses these levels, you can see she's going to have to come down, maybe eat a little bit of tail in here. I suppose if we do reload zones, this isn't a bad place to be thinking about taking shots. But in the short term, I think Dash has got the market's attention. So, you know what they say, buying when they're crying, right? So I like that idea of buying when these things are down. Yeah, right into the reload zone there. So you're going to be taking a shot against these lows. If you margin leverage trade this, be careful. If we dip, through here, probably odds are we got to head down into these tails. And I suppose if we look down on the daily chart, yeah, there are those key levels right in there. And you can see if we lose these levels, A, B, C, D, probably means we're going to have to come back down into here. So be careful, my friend. This would be sort of like nibble, nibble, but no pound the table. Right? This would be like little old ladies, maybe just adding to her portfolio, but it's not like, holy shit, you got to bet the farm. Full leverage long. Bye, bye, bye. No, it's not like that at all. Okay, think we better leave it at that for today. You guys have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. Should be a wild weekend in crypto land, no doubt about that. Any questions, feel free to pop into the lounge. I'll stick around here and answer any questions if you want to look at anything in particular after the video. But why don't we call it a day video-wise. All the best, and bye for now.